listening to the #1 real estate podcast where we talk with real estate agents and team leads all across the world about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories. Hi, my name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with my co-founder of the Real Estate Growth Academy, Vikram Deol. How you doing, my man? How are things? How is life in your world?
What's up, baby? Life is good. I'm excited for today. We got a rock star on, but
Likewise.
Sitting here in Miami. Next week we got a what do we got going on next week? Oh, we're doing a talk on stage about some cool things that's going on in the real estate market, and things are good, man. Like, clients are winning. Weather's great here in Miami. This is like Miami season. I'm not saying anything. I mean, we're going to be in Colombia in about 3 weeks, so it's going to be awesome, man. Like, I'm looking forward to the next 90 days. We
have somebody that I'm excited to have on the podcast today, who's built a team, and somebody that I know is gonna provide a ton of value to real estate agents around the world. And we have Andrew Moore here with us today. And Andrew, I want to say thank you more than anything for taking the time out of your day in order to chat with us a little bit about your wins, losses, lessons, and stories. Why don't we go back to the beginning, to where you got into, and give us kind of a high level overview on kind of how you got into real estate. Like, what did your journey look like prior to real estate? Why did you choose real estate? Just give us kind of like a high level overview on kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, thank you first for having me. You guys have been great, and I've gotten a lot of value out of your program already. So to be included in this is really an honor. So I appreciate that. For me, I was in high-end luxury retail for over 20 years before this. And, I was basically selling diamond engagement wedding rings to men. And if you want a tough thing to sell, other than encyclopedias and cookware, that's probably up there. And, through several different recessions, 9/11, different big benchmarks, the first thing that goes is basically luxury, Really? And so, a very challenging thing to sell. I was working between New York, San Francisco, and Newport Beach, California, and traveling literally monthly for 20 years between those three cities. So pretty crazy discipline, a lot of responsibility. I had 50 employees, tens of $1 million worth of inventory that are things smaller than your fingernails that are worth crazy amounts of money, and you have to track them all and keep tracks of them. Definitely a challenging type of thing. So, my kind of one of my best friends in Canada is one of the top realtors in all of Canada and has been for many, many years. He was saying, well, why don't you go into real estate? I mean, the people that are buying these rings and spending, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million, on rings are the people that are buying the homes in the areas that you live in.
Right.
And, why don't you move into that? And, needless to say, I wish I did it maybe 10 years earlier than I have done it, but that was probably the catalyst to move into the real estate business and do that.
Maybe I should have moved into the market 10 years earlier, right? But I wonder if you would have had the same success right out the gate if you had done that. Because I think there's a little bit of grit that you build, and as you claw your way through some recessions, you claw your way out through 2008, right? Because if we're talking about 10 years ago, that'd have been 2012. So that's right when the market started to kind of bounce back for a lot of people, depending on where you're at in the world. Some people didn't see as bad of a recession as other parts of the country, but 2010 was still a really hard time in real estate. And I'm sure it was a really hard time in diamonds. And so I wonder if you didn't have that experience and rebuilt back up and then got into real estate, I wonder what your experience would have been like. I wonder if you've ever thought about that.
I have a lot, actually. And I think, a good answer for that. And particularly in your program, you have a lot of new agents that are just starting. They're in their 20s. And I have agents on my team that are in their 20s. And, I'm older than their fathers in some cases. It's kind of weird.
You look great, buddy.
I'm 50. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, but it's a very interesting kind of thing to be essentially older than their fathers or their mentors and turning it in. And I don't think that, depending on what age you are or anyone here or the young people that are on the call, in life, you will go through many things that happen. Like I know people that have been worth millions and then they're bankrupt and then they're worth millions again. You're going to have friends and family are going to pass. You're going to have things like COVID, 9/11, 2008. We had a jewelry store in Lower Manhattan in Soho that was in the zone when the World Trade Center collapsed.
Wow.
Like basically everything was closed. I have a picture with some of my suppliers from Germany at the time on top of the World Trade Center, like from like several months before that happened.
Wow.
And, so it's kind of, I don't think that, I would use the word scars and scrapes and things like that. You don't get to a certain age where you don't have these scars and these memories and ages and things and family experiences and dramas, business experiences and dramas with it. So, I think it is, to answer your question, yes, maybe I could have gone into it, but these scars, no matter what you do in your life, you're going to have them. And you have to put yourself out there. You have to try to do it. You have to try to better yourself, learn from your mistakes. There's certain mistakes that you can learn from other people, and there's certain mistakes that you just have to make yourself and do it.
So interesting that you say that. Like I've heard that from multiple people about, especially the ups and downs of business. One of the David Meltzer, who wrote the foreword to our book, lost $100 million and then rebuilt a massive sports one marketing company. So it's a common story, and I'm glad that you touched on that. And I'm curious to know for you, because you had that retail background and you managed employees, like what were some of the lessons coming into real estate that maybe potentially people don't know? Because I think a lot of people get into real estate and they think that it's a lot easier than it actually is. They don't have, but they don't have the luxury of understanding the back end systems of actually operating a business. Like you were a CEO, like, so you had the experience of like being an operator as well. And, managing a team of 50 is like massive. So like, I'm curious to know for you, what were some things that you brought over to real estate that you were kind of intangibles that allowed you to kind of like grow the real estate business faster than the vast majority of people build their real estate businesses?
I would break it down in a couple different pieces. One is that I've learned, I worked with a lot of different types of people, women, gay, straight, different ages, everything, in cities, different geographic areas. And like Cody, I could maybe say something to you a way, but I might have to say it slightly different to Vikram. And you learn how to try to bring out the best pieces of people. And, you can't be everybody's best friend. You have to be the boss. But at the same time, if you don't talk down to people, people will admire you and follow you and respect you. If you're, the tyrant and you freak out about things and stuff like that, and versus being constructive and giving them constructive criticism, showing them the way, I would have said it this way, I would have done it that way, versus, absolutely blowing the head off a situation, it doesn't make it any better. And if anything, you stifle growth and you stifle your reputation with people. And, at the end of the day, we're all in the boat together rowing. And, if you keep them unified and everybody, they see you in the boat first and you're out there first thing in the morning, they come to work at 9 and you've been here since 7 and they already see that you're doing that. It's a lot easier to lead by example and be that person versus, showing up late and, you're hungover and you don't care and you're there for an hour and you leave for a 2-hour lunch and you come back. I think you have to bring the energy. You are the energy. You are the battery that powers the mechanism. You can't be looking for other people to do that. And the other thing is things that I'm not good at. Think of it almost like kind of like a restaurant. Cody, you're the maitre d' at a top restaurant, right? One of your best clients walks in. Who are you going to give that client to? You're not doing it to your rookie waiter. You're giving it to your best waiter, or you're going to do it yourself. But you also need to be able to step out of yourself and realize that you're not the best person for everyone. You're like,
that's good.
Get rid of your ego and everything and realize that someone actually is going to do a better job than you will in that situation. And so a lot of the retail background, I would choose who would be better to go over to these types of clients. And you're making a snap judgment at certain times, obviously you keep your eye on it, but sales and growth happen by you stepping back and not having the ego that you're the best for everything. And, basically you're golden boy and, like, but you're not. And I think that was a big lesson that I learned.
Well, I mean, that's insight, right? That you don't get without time in the saddle, right? You don't understand how a horse is going to operate unless you've ridden a horse for thousands of hours when there's a snake that comes up or when it doesn't want to go over the jump, right? Like you can't foresee some of the things because we don't know what we don't know and we all have blind spots. And so bringing in your experience, right? Because I built a team in real estate. Cody's built a team in business before. Cody came from the corporate world and I just came from the school of hard knocks. When you bring all of that together, right? And you say, hey, I'm going to create a real estate team, because a lot of people create real estate teams, Andrew, and they go broke. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're a high flyer.
I could see that 100%.
Yeah, they're high flyers. They're kicking ass. They're taking names. They're doing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in their market. And, not everybody's you're in Newport Beach. So your average sales probably what, $1.25 million, $1.5 million, somewhere in that range.
That'd be fair to say. Yeah.
That's like 2 months for some people in sales volume, right? Because they're at like the 200 to 300. So they're doing a high volume business and then they try to build a team, right? But they've never built a team before. And they don't know when to hire and they don't know when to fire. They don't know when to say, okay, enough's enough. How would you recommend to a professional, right, real estate agent that's by all stretches of the imagination crushing it in their market, that says, hey, I want to build a team now? What would you say is like one of the most, not like an admin team, not like, a bunch of TCs and internal people. I'm talking about like front facing people to take some of the excess that, as a real estate agent, there's some excess things that we don't want to do. What do you think, like, if you go back and you think about your first team hire for sales in real estate, what do you think is one of the mistakes that you made? And what would you wish that you knew that you now know?
Other great questions, all of them. I think building a team is something that I would first ask why. What is it? Are you like, if you're making 300, 400, 500, to use your analogy type of thing, what do you want? $1 million, $1.5 million, 2 million? Is that what you're trying to do? When you manage people and they're difficult. They go through family tragedies, personal things, you have to be their life coach in situations, divorces, children, I mean, you name it. And, that's a lot to deal with when you already have a successful business. Right, and so I would first and foremost ask, like, why? Like, is it ego? I had to build a team because I had too many listings. A nice problem to have in real estate. I couldn't service all my listings with open houses. I couldn't be there for every showing. I just couldn't do it physically. So different from building a team, which some people do, is some people pay a lot of people. My team, I don't pay them. They make it through commissions. Right. So they work, they get these opportunities, they get to sit on these houses. If someone walks in, they get 50% of it or whatever number that you decide on it. They don't get $1,000 for sitting in an open house. Right. They get it. So they have incentive to learn and grow. And if I know how I was treated, I was on several teams in the beginning. It was just not fair. I was sitting on like $5 million houses and getting the buyers for it. And then they would go, oh yeah, here's $1,000. And, and they made 150, and you're just like, what, so that wasn't a lot of trial and error. I learned from other teams of what they did correct and what they did wrong, in my opinion, because I didn't see it as fair. And I don't know if it's being Canadian or what. I try to always be fair. And, there's a line where you can be fair and you have to fire and hire and things like that. But I think the big thing comes down to having team members. And my motto that I say to myself all the time, and, you ask, like, how do you make the decision? Right. I can't want their success more for them than they want it for themselves.
Totally.
And me as a coach and a mentor and like kind of the person that I am as a person, I'm kind of like that. I'm Vikram, you're going to be the most like successful guy that I know, and I will do everything to try to make that happen. Right. But I can't want your success more for you than you want it for yourself. And when I find myself coming home, and I have a wife who's, her story is a crazy story. If you want to hear for a 2-minute segment, I can tell you that I don't have a lot of excuses when I get home. If I get home and I start talking about, complaining about someone regularly or anything like that, inevitably the conversation comes up like, hey, listen, for the last week or the last month, almost every night you come home and you've been complaining or talking about this person. What are you going to do about it? Right. And that's a really good thing to have a sounding board, a coach in some cases, because sometimes you don't want to bring the business home and keep it out of the house a little bit, other times you can. I have a good partnership with my wife, so it's kind of one of those things that, we both bounce the things off of each other. But if I start complaining too much about someone, she's like, well, how much time are you taking out of your real estate day to try to help this person do it? And what's it doing for you? Nothing. And you come home, you're taking time out of our thing. There's something wrong.
Yeah. That's super insightful. That's super insightful about managing like people and them can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. So that is very sales driven mentality, in my opinion. Like, coming from like a sales background, I was really excited for this podcast because you have a sales background too, when from a luxury, like selling luxury rings to now selling, luxury real estate and selling real estate where you're selling. I'm curious to know what you look for when you hire a buyer's agent or a listing agent. Like what are some of the intangibles that you look for other than them really wanting it? Because I think a vast majority of real estate agents like are clerks and cashiers. They're not salespeople. Yep. And they're not sales professionals, and they don't know how to be sales professionals. They don't know how to take, an unknown conversation or somebody they just met into like where they feel comfortable enough to choose you as an agent. Like, how do you train your agents? How do you find agents? How do you find agents that will go above and beyond for the people that are in front of them and actually like go out and find their own business so that you can continually grow yours as well?
I would actually like to step one step back, because I think the challenge that a lot of people have is they don't know the difference between somebody who says they're motivated and somebody who's actually internally driven. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how you've learned to find people that are, and obviously there's people who put on a good show in a front, but talk about that and then talk about your training. Cause I think Cody's got a,
unfortunately in this market, you have a lot of sizzle, but not enough steak. And, like you have, 10% of the agents doing 90% of the business. I know it's that people still have the 80-20 rule, but it really is. And, basically what, when you get to a certain size, I'm not saying I'm the best agent in the world by any means. There's people that blow me out of the water type of thing, that kind of thing. But I have agents that come to me all the time and want to work with me. Like you have an aura, you have a business that's attractive, you have that, what like if you're going to go date somebody right now, right? When you're younger, you're just like, oh, okay, well, who's ever the hottest one, or, whatever, whatever was doing it for you. It wasn't about brains and things at that point. It was about other things, and, but as you get older, you're kind of like, well, what do you bring to the relationship? What do you have to offer? You look great in that outfit, but you don't really, what else do you have? And I would say agents kind of are like that now. So in the beginning, I would hire maybe somebody that I would make a mistake that I would just hire because I liked them and I thought they were cool or something like that. Now I'm like, okay, you're going to make 1,000 phone calls in the first 2 days. You're gonna add 300 social media people. How many people do you have on your social media? Right? Yeah. You're gonna add, and you're gonna reach out to everyone there and tell them what you're doing. How often are you posting things? Your KPI sheet, to use your language type of thing, Vikram. What does that look like? Yeah. And one of the great people that we both hold a lot of mutual respect for, the great Sharon. When I fortunately started my career at Telus Properties. And
when did you get into real estate? Like 2015-ish, 2016?
Yeah, I've been in for about 10 years now.
Okay.
And so I started there, and I started with like a great leadership, great mentors, that type of thing. Right. And one of Sharon's favorite thing is tell me what your day looks like, and I'll tell you if you're successful. And, and it's so true. Like you're a coach, you see it all the time. Know when people are lying and when they're not, when people are like, okay, you had a bad day. I get it, like that kind of thing. But you know what? You got to get on the horse and do it. No one's going to do it for you. And, Cody, I don't think I've ever said this analogy to you. All these agents and everything, Vikram, on your podcast right now, they're kind of like worried about the market and like what's going on in the market. And they, this is the first difficult, and it's not difficult. It's just changed. Okay.
Right.
Totally.
It's a new season.
The three of us go to Canada and we go walking for an hour, and sorry, it's a warmer day, Cody. It's not as cold as you are right now, but we walk for an hour and we're sweaty, and we finally get to this river. And, like we start fishing and take our shoes off, crack some beers. And we're standing there, and, mama bear comes running out of the woods, rawr, that kind of thing. And Vikram rides bikes, and you're younger than me, Cody. You guys take off running down the beach, right? Well, you look back and I'm sticking my shoes on, and you guys are like, you stupid Canadian, thing, like you can't outrun the bear. It really comes down to, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. And so like this thing is like, people are wondering the secret sauce to success or something like that. If you're making 25 phone calls, I'm going to make 50 phone calls. If you make 50, I'm going to make 100. If you're going to knock on 20 doors, I'm going to knock on 50 doors. I did it because I was used to a retail background where people had objections coming to me, but they came into my domain. I didn't have to go to them. They came to me. So in 2019, I did 175 open houses myself, not my team, myself. And so that's 20 times probably the average.
I'm trying to do the math here. So there's 52 weekends. You take 2 weekends off for Christmas and 3 weekends, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's. So it's 49. You did 175. So that's 3 open houses. So you did 1 Saturday, 2 Sunday type of deal.
Yeah, two Saturday, 1 in the morning, 10 to 1, and then 2 to 5 or something like that. Those.
And you did long open houses too. Wow.
And I do a lot of open houses where I'll sit there from like 9 in the morning till 5 or 6. And when you come from a retail background, that's nothing. 8 hours. I used to work 16 hours.
Me too. 100%. I'm totally with you.
Kind of like I'm here with my business. I'm set up with my signs all over the place. People are coming to me, and then someone would walk in and go, well, God, you're doing a long open house and everything. And I said, frankly, if someone was selling your house, wouldn't you want that to be the way?
Yeah.
Oh,
wait, hold on. Let's put a pause on that. I for all my realtor friends out there, right? Because I talk to a lot of young bucks, and they're like, we only want to do social media. I want you guys to stop. I want you guys to go to Andrew Moore's, right? It's the Andrew Moore group, the AMG group. Look him up on Google, right? Go find him on Compass. Go look at his sales. And the guy's clearly not a rookie. He's had massive success in his life. And he's holding 8-hour open houses. And you tell me your only lead pillar is I'm going to make a couple of posts 3 times a week on social media. And then you say, why are you not successful? Right. I want you guys to stop. And in your notes, if you're driving, obviously come back to this, but that's a huge, that's huge, right? I used to do 3 to 4 open houses a week because I wanted to spread myself around in the neighborhoods that I wanted to work. And I would do 11 to 1 and then 2 to 4. Right. And I would do that Saturday and Sunday. So I would do some weekends, we'd do 4 open houses, and I would be doing them. My team would be doing them. So there'd be weekends out there where we would have, 60 signs. Right. And people are like, why are you doing that? We're spending $20,000 a month at the height on Zillow. So not only did people see us on Zillow, they then saw our signs. They then saw that we had 3 or 4 open houses going on at the same time. And they're like, how did you do so much business so quickly in a city that you didn't know anybody in? I was like, oh, people,
and I think
let's rephrase that. People knew us,
but
they didn't know you because you're a secret agent. We were on Facebook. The minute Facebook Live came out, Sharon's like, you need to be on Facebook. Okay. Now, 10 years later, we're starting to edit our videos, but it's taken us 10 years. So like you did 170 some odd open houses yourself. And I would assume that you were tracking the success out of it, and you probably pulled clients that are still calling you from 3 years ago because they were like, man, that guy was working his butt off.
Absolutely. And then there'd be areas that I'd go to and they're like, oh, well, we don't do open houses Sunday. So whose signs were out there all on their own all day Sunday?
Yours.
And how many more, this is I think where it gets into the Vikram type analogy that I like, is how many more conversations have I had? How many more contacts have I had? How many more objections have I dealt with? So when I've done 18 or 20 times the number of times, that's how many more contacts and things that I did. So people are looking for the secret sauce. Just outrun the other agent. You don't have to outrun the bear. Just pick something that you're really good at and do it religiously, do it all the time. And, you'll be it. And my goal was going to be, when I came to Compass, was I walked into my interview and, people bring all paperwork and mumbo jumbo and magazines with their pictures in it and everything like that. And I didn't have anything like that. I walked in with a bar napkin. and the only thing that I had on the bar napkin was the number 365 written on it. And I was going to literally try to do 365 open houses in 1 year. That's what I pitched to Compass when I came.
Jeez.
But who's ever done it?
Yeah.
Like if I had that much success with 175, like this story would be something. And I wanted to kind of jump out of a plane and land in someone's yard with an open house sign and do an open house there, take like listings, scuba dive out of the water and come up on this beach and, like do an open house and like kind of really make it something. Because, here in Newport, we have the luxury car open and you see the high heel step out of the side of the car and she's all dressed in red because she's voracious on Fridays and she's going to do the open. That's not me. That will never be me. So I wanted to do something that no one else has done before, but even if they've done it before, they didn't do it as much as I did. And that's the key.
Wow.
Just outrun the other agents, like versus the bear,
So when I got into real estate, the mentor next to me, his name's Art Whittlesley. He's an old timer, 70-ish now, probably. And he says, he sat open houses for new construction. So he's a king of new construction in Bellevue, just annihilates it even at this age. And he would say, Vikram, if I knew so-and-so was doing 3, I would do 5. Right. He said, if I knew so then the next week, so-and-so is doing 5, I would do 6 because I was never going to let her or him outwork me.
Right.
And now, guess who has all the new construction builders?
Right.
He has like the big names, right? And they only go to him because the connection, the relationship, the hard work, they know his system. And that's the thing, you guys, like, I listen to some guys on YouTube and they talk about how they door knocked for 6 months straight, 4 hours a day. And I know people that say, I can never do that. I said, why not? My first deal came from a door knock. It was $850,000 listing. Now, granted, I was in Bellevue, so maybe, but it was the best neighborhood in town. Everybody's like, Vic, you got to get in this neighborhood. So I went knock doors. I left a note in the guy's mail, on his own mail. I left a note. Hey, can you give me a call? I have a question about your house. I don't think I've told you the story, Cody. On his own mail, I left a note. The guy called me. He's like, hey, we bought the house. We were going to tear it down. We were going to build, but my wife's like not into it. We bought a house up in Lakemont. We live there now. We actually would love to sell this property. Okay. I called up 3 people I knew. One of the guys said, I want to buy it. They bought it for $850 cash off market. I got a check for $25,000. And I was like, holy crap, door knocking works. I got lucky, but people say, I don't want to door knock. I don't want to do open houses. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. If somebody says something like that to you, Andrew, and they want to be on your team, do you coach them up or do you just shut the door and say, hey, we're probably not a good fit?
I can't want your success more for you than yourself if you're not prepared to even help yourself.
Team leads listen to that.
That's it.
Team
And
leads listen to that.
Kind of an analogy, and I've used it in many different senses. I'm an analogy guy, so sorry.
I love it. I love it. I know, that's great.
But I had it with difficult friends, and sometimes when you don't want to really talk about the subject, but you kind of trying to tell them how you feel without dealing with the subject directly. Right. And I call it the raft analogy. So, your real estate team is out on the love boats. Everybody thinks it's glamorous and wonderful and, they don't need to do anything. And sure enough, the damn thing sinks. We climbed onto some table and we're out floating and, the ship is gone and, all of us are tired, sunburned. We got to go to the bathroom. Some people are standing, some people are sitting, everyone's hungry. We're sunburned, all that kind of stuff. And when someone's complaining about you potentially getting a $25,000 check by knocking on a few doors, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to push them in the water. And you hope that that water is so freaking cold that the first thing you're going to do is reach down and pull them back out, right? You know, hopefully they snapped out of it. But I found at a very short time, the wind starts picking up, we start floating apart from each other. And, you know, lucky enough, we were able to have a bit of a rope, you know, and I coiled up that wet rope, and I'm tired, and it's like, whatever. I've thrown that rope at you, Vikram. Like, it's hit you right in the face. It's landed right in front of you. It's gone right over your shoulders. It's like, all you got to do is take one stroke and grab it, and I'm going to pull you. I'm going to pull you in, you know, and, you know, I'm okay. Like, I'm only going to throw that rope so many times.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm okay if we float away from each other, and that's cool. And, you know, for me, that's what I've had to say to some people before, because I'm not doing it anymore. And, you know, it's taking money out of my own pocket and my family's pocket by coiling up this rope and wasting my time, when, if you're not going to do it for yourself, why should I do it? You know? And so that's really kind of helped me deal with a lot of people in my life. Like, how many times have I been in that situation, you know?
I'm really curious. Yeah, it's a great analogy, the rope. Like, I'm really curious to know what your onboarding process looks like for like a new buyer's agent, new listing agent. Like, I chat with a lot of team leads, and they, you know, they brought on like one or two, and they're like, one is okay. The other one is like, you know, they're decent, but they're not, you know, they're not doing the production I'm doing, because I'm still focused solely on production as well. Especially when you get into that team that is, you know, potentially has one team lead that's still doing high production, and then they have a couple of agents. How are you setting your agents up for success, and like, what does that process actually look like? And because I'm really curious, you know, you coming from a retail background, I'm curious to know kind of like how you ensure, like, obviously they have to want it for themselves, but say, for example, I, as an agent, come in and I say, hey, I want it bad, and I actually mean it, and I'm quick to implement. What does that process look like? How would you recommend a team lead roll that out with a buyer's agent or a listing agent?
It depends on like how brutal you want to be. Like, I would say, Cody, I'm hiring you and Vikram, and you know what, we're going to put you on a 7-day trial or a 2-week trial or a month trial. And, you know, frankly, one of you is going to make it and one of you is not. I mean, if you both are phenomenal, wonderful, but okay, in your first week, this is what it looks like. You're going to call 2,500 people, and you're going to knock on 200 doors or whatever. And you're going to sit in open house with me, and I'm going to role play and walk in like I'm the person, you know, doing that. I mean, I literally had thousands of people walk through my open houses, and then never mind thousands of people in 20 years of being in retail. You know, so I'm used to situations, negatives, positives, how to address things. Let's see how this person behaves versus just saying, oh, I'm all in with this person, and, you know, that's great, and you don't think that you can get out of it. That doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. If you know, if they're kicking their feet and they're swimming and they're going to do it, and they do a great job, and they report to you, and you see something over a period of time, great. But it doesn't mean that you need to just hire them right away. You know, what are they bringing to the relationship? You know, those kinds of things. I came from a place kind of like Vikram did, where I you know, this is like the USC fraternity, you know, sorority, you know, I went to this school, and, you know, I grew up on this island, and my parents did, and my grandparents did, and their grandparents did, you know, and like that.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Right.
So I've had to create my thing from nothing, and anyone that's listening to this podcast can do the same thing. It's just what you're willing to work. And I do find that overall, the younger generation feels more entitled. They don't want to do the work because it's difficult.
It's hard.
I like the grind. I like the difficult. If I get a list of 20 things to do, I do the worst, hardest, nastiest, heaviest, dirtiest things first, because then it's all downhill. Where other people cherry pick, and they're like, oh, I'll just do that one kind of first, you know? And, you know, that's just the mentality that I grew up with, and how I am. And I think that's part of being successful is that embrace the suck. I mean, there is some suck in any business. You can't get paid this kind of money and not have some suck. You know, I mean, that's just part of it. And so pick the lesser of evils. I find too many agents try to do 10 different things, and they're not good at any one of them. Pick 2 of them and just focus on 2 of them or 1 of them, and you don't need to do anything else. I think a big, really, actually, you guys touched on it in a little conversation, is, your bios and your links on all your websites and everything. Have you actually gone and clicked on all those links and see where they take you?
They're 80%.
Like
80%
have
of them are broken.
broken links, broken things, undated information, different things, spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. And, so, I make all my agents put everything through Grammarly, do it.
Yep.
We also today live in such a review-driven society.
Yep.
I recommend agents, number one thing is get reviews, like as much as possible.
100%.
I have 65-star plus reviews on Zillow. I only have 5-star reviews. It's taken me almost 10 years to get that. That's tough. And
I'll give you my trick to getting reviews.
Great.
So in our listing presentations and in our buyer presentations, I would have a sheet, right? So we go through the whole thing, and then I'd say, here's our goals for you, is that you guys get the house that you want, in the neighborhood that you want, at the price that you want, at the terms that you want, and that this is as stress-free. Yeah. All right. This is like, this is what we said, and it's as stress-free as possible, because I want you guys to know up front, there are going to be challenges and there are going to be things, but I want you guys to know that we are here to back you guys. Yep. And then I'd sit and they'd be like, okay, great. And I said, is there anything else that we are not covering here that would cause you to not want to give us a 5-star review at the end? Of like, well, no, that covers it. I said, great. I flipped the page. I said, now these are what our goals from you are. So I'd share what our expectations are for ourselves, for them. And then what I'd share is ours from them, because I call a raving fan R cubed. They give you a review, they use you for life, and they send you a referral before the transaction's over. Mm-hmm. And I just have a page in my listing book and my page in my buyer's book. And I'd say, and here's why this is important for you. I said, because you know that we're always going to ask you for a 5-star review on some site. So this is what keeps us honest. We want you to be our client for life. So we're going to do anything in our power that's legal and possible to get you what you want. And then we want you to send your friends and family to us, because we know that your friends and family are going to be like you. And if we like you, then we want to work with more people like you. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then every time, Andrew, I'd go to a showing, I'd be like, hey guys, how we doing? How would you rate our service? They're like, Vic, you're a 5. I'm like, awesome. And I would just keep hammering it. And so then when my team would send out, a week before closing, we would send out a review request, because the minute they get their keys, they're busy. But a week before, like typically it was the day they got their approval, or the day that we got the bank approval, we would send it out. We have 125. We have 125 reviews on Zillow that we got in like a 5-year span.
Right.
And it was just because we just systematized it, and we would get a ton of referrals. So we spent a lot of money for branding and advertising, but we also just created a small system, because I didn't come from real estate. I came from the business world, where we were spending thousands of dollars to make a $300 cell phone set.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I have my method of getting them and all of that. And, frankly, we're in a business where sometimes everything doesn't just go perfect. It
does.
You know what? Sometimes don't ask them for a review.
Totally.
There's, you're basically like a coach and you're trying to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You have escrow and title and coaches and inspectors and lenders and transaction coordinators, and you have to put together this team and win the big cup. And, to the best of your ability, like I try to do, 120% every time. Of
course.
And it normally goes very well, because I have skilled people that I work with that, know how I work, and they complement and accent my business and everything. But if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. And so not all the time ask for a review. But if you're going to go to a restaurant right now and you open it up and it has 65-star reviews, are you going to go there and eat?
100% you are.
You will. And so, that for any young agent to try to get those things is a huge part of your business now, because if I go into a listing presentation, which I primarily am a listing agent, I'm, probably 95% of what I do. The thing is, you walk in and you have the resume for the business.
Yeah.
I don't just have the sales experience. I have here's what people are saying. And I think that's a really big key to business these days. It's all review driven.
Can we touch on one thing? Because you said you're a listing agent, but you still work with buyers, correct?
Of course, big fish, small fish, everything. Come
So,
on.
and I just want that to be super clear to everyone that's listening to this podcast, because I have met far too many real estate agents that are like, you know what, I'm gonna shift my focus away from to all towards listing. I want listings, but it's like, you still need to serve buyers, because buyers want a home, sellers want a buyer. If you don't have a list of buyers for your sellers, you're not a listing agent. So I just wanted to make that super clear. Yeah.
I think
You're
another
also
thing that I've
10
done.
years in the business.
Well, I think a real big thing that I've done, which I think encapsulates my business quite a bit as well, is, we have very rich area that I live in, and there's 20, $30 million homes and things like that. And you have some of the agents that are doing that business, and, okay, great. That type of idea. I was young and new in the business. So you're kind of like, you have to pick what you can get. And kind of like maybe a dating strategy. If you just went ugly earlier, you probably would have saved a ton of money and took someone home. So I work a lot of areas where people don't want to work. But let's talk about like semi-recession, slowdown in the economy and everything, right?
Yeah.
These are where the buyers are, and the largest pool of buyers are. These are like, no matter what, these people will have to buy that because they're starting families. They're having and wanting are two different things in real estate. So, the rich areas are going to be the ones that they're all sitting on homes paying 2.5, 2.75, 3 on their mortgages right now. The last thing they're going to do is sell and increase tax implications and everything. So where is the market? Where is the activity in the market? It's in these other places. It will be that last part to be affected by it, the market changes, and it'll be the first to come back. So rather than just being focused on one area, don't be afraid to go and drive. I did an open house in Santa Barbara, which is 2.5 hours away. I stayed in a hotel over the weekend, and I set a record in that neighborhood.
Wow.
I put 25,000 miles on my car this year alone, just driving in between appointments. So I don't care if it's a big fish, a little fish, where it is, anything, like no excuses. Oh yeah, I just want to work within these 5 blocks by my house. If you have that luxury and you can afford that, wonderful. I didn't. So I kind of went ugly early, and I went to all these different places, and it's really paid off. One of my open houses that I did there, in having the conversation, I got 6 listings from one open house.
Yeah.
Wow.
6 from one open house.
6.
So, it's just, don't be afraid to like try something. And if you find something that you're good at or you like it, then put more effort into that section. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error, and it has to do with your personality and your character and things like that. But you will find something that you're good at and you like it. Is it going to take some work and some practice and some role play and some trial and error? Yes. But if you find the right things and you do them frequently enough, anyone can do this business, and it's a wonderful business. It really is. It's an incredible business. Really.
Andrew, I just want to say thank you, bottom of my heart. Like, I know you provided a ton of value today to everyone listening. And I just want to kind of give you an opportunity to kind of talk about, as we wrap up here, if somebody were to want to reach out to you, or somebody was listening in the Newport or the California area, and want to buy or sell real estate, where is the best place for them to reach you? And like, where's the best place for them to follow you on social?
Well, I think the best thing is, like anything, is you have to Google yourself. And do you come up when you Google yourself? If you don't, then you better start working on that. So I would just say, social media, if you put in Andrew Moore or the Andrew Moore Group or whatever, or real estate agent, if you just Google that, I should come up and you guys should come up. And if you're not, then you need to find why you're not coming up and figure that out. I'm happy to, for the users to contribute as much as I don't care where they are in the country. I don't drive crazy, fancy, stupid cars and everything like that. I'm just the nuts and bolts guy. So if you want to talk, or you need any help, or you Vikram, you want to pop me on the line with someone and have a little bit of, I'll hold them and you punch them type of scenario.
There's a lot of people that I'd like to do that one with.
Yeah, I'm happy to, or vice versa. I'm happy to kind of contribute that way, because it's just about rolling up your sleeves and doing the job and not complaining and that kind of thing. And, it's like, to end on a fishing analogy, it's kind of like, number one, you're not going to catch anything if you don't leave the dock.
Yeah.
And, when you leave the dock, you break a fish off because you didn't tie the right knot. You drive over the lines, you get them all caught in the engine, and you have to figure that out. You knock the fish off with a net, and you're just like, damn it, and things. And you might get lucky. And some of these agents, which I think they've gotten a false sense of security over the last few years, because you got a listing, you sold it for $100,000 more than the listing or whatever. And
not because of their skill, just
I
because
can do this. This is easy. But fishing over many, many years, decades, and 20 years, 30 years, you get better at all those little mistakes. You sharpen the hook, you tie a better knot, you get to be a better fisherman or woman. You don't make the same mistakes that you did before, but all of us have to drive over a big piece of seaweed and get the lines caught. I can't do that for you. You're going to have to do that. And you have to leave the dock to be able to do that.
100%. Andrew,
100%.
We appreciate you, man. I am
Cool.
super excited.
Like I said, honored to have you guys. Thank you very much for having me. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll chat soon, buddy.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
And thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Real Estate Agent Podcast. We will see you soon.